only fear of a halfway house I've had is that I've been assaulted here more than once because of my charges. And that I know that the rest of the people in the halfway house are there from prisons, not just here, from all the other prisons. And then I would just worry about my safety.
Patrol officer, is it still your plan to not move back to the same community where you were living?
I would like to, only because that's where my support network is. And I have a friend who owns two 4-unit apartment buildings who would not really charge me rent. He's part of my support network. I've known him since I was 2. And then
that's back at the same town where you were at?
He is serving a sentence of 20 years, execution suspended after 8 years, and 10 years probation for possession of child. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of 8/22/25. There is no...
So, before we dive into this, I really just want to reiterate that this is someone we trust with our children, and that you truly never know who someone really is, so make sure to keep open lines of communication with your children at all times. And I think the parole board really did an amazing job, especially the first speaker. She really highlighted the despicable acts that this man committed, and I really, really think she did an amazing job. But let's get back into this.
Victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows that the offender has completed the following programs: Voices, Coping and Life Skills Group, Serve Safe, Culinary Arts, and he holds a facility job. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the low range for risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low range. Mr. Stevenson, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
Thank you. To the parole board, I want to thank you for the privilege of appearing before you today and the opportunity to read my statement. I'd like to start with a short statement I read during my sentencing to the victims. To my victims, I offer no excuses for my crimes and accept full responsibility. I am truly sorry. I broke the teacher-student bond with my horrible crimes. I treated you like objects without your knowledge, which broke your trust in me. I crossed a line that should have never been crossed. I caused you pain, anger, and trauma. You were my students, and I've known many of you and your families for a long time. I not only violated your privacy and trust, but theirs as well. I am sorry for what I've done. You should be enjoying your lives and not having to live with the memory or trauma that I caused you. I am ever apologetic and remorseful for what I've put each of you through. I have a child who's roughly would have been your age, and I cannot imagine her having to go through this. And I want to say sorry to each of you for putting you through this pain and anger. I cannot ask your forgiveness or understanding. It is my hope that despite this, you will live happy and healthy lives. Each of you deserve better, and I failed you not only as a teacher, but as a human being. I am so very sorry. I'm sure by now that the board has read through my long history of abuse, but that isn't why I'm here before you today. My abuser died in 2016 without me being able to confront him. His darkness was never dragged into the light. Mine soon would be, and for the better. During the span of my criminal activity, I was living my life anesthetized to the reality and impact of my criminal online and criminal real-world activities. I was blind to them, but that would soon change with a moment of clarity. The moment occurred when our television screensaver mode was linked to my former spouse's phone. I went to the family room with the screen full of images. I was stopped in my tracks by a feeling of disgust. The images were of my daughter, friends, and other family photos. I wasn't seeing them. All I saw in my mind were the images of my victims. I began sobbing with the intense feelings of shame and anger at myself for what I had done to my students and those minors being exploited online. There are no excuses or justification for what I've done. My abuser did not log me into my laptop or take covert pictures of my victims. I alone did that. I knew before incarceration of the harmful impact of crime on society, but groups I've taken here in prison opened my eyes to the ripple effect of harm suffered by not only the victims, but also on the victim's circle of family and friends. The ripple effect from my experience is real and devastating. The victim's trauma is not lost on me. If I could go back and not commit these crimes, I would do so immediately. This would not be done to avoid incarceration when my darkness was dragged into the light. I would undo my crimes because of the harm I caused in all of my victims' lives. What I can do is take full responsibility and live my life with the shame and guilt I feel daily. I lost everything after my incarceration, but these are just personal losses and pale in comparison to the innocence I took from my criminal behavior. The crimes I committed over that time span do not represent who I was before, who I am now, and who I will be when my period of incarceration is over. Again, I accept full responsibility for my crimes. I hope this statement conveys how much guilt, sorrow, and remorse for what I've done to my victims. They do not deserve having to go through any of this. It is also my hope that you see me as more than just a list of charges. I am still a person who wants to help others and somehow make amends for what I've done. There are not many certainties in the world, but I know two. One, I will never again contribute to or leave pain, trauma, and misery in my wake. And two, I will not be a recidivist. Again, I would like to thank you for seeing me today.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson, thank you very much for your opening statement. So what's going to happen today is that we're all going to take turns asking you questions. And then when we're done, we'll deliberate and we'll give you our answer today, okay?
Okay, thank you.
We're going to start the questions this morning with my colleague, panel member Barry.
Thank you, Sir Chair. So, Mr. Stevenson, I appreciate your opening statement.
Thank you.
Chester, we'll be with you shortly. We still have we're dealing with one person at Garner, so we should be done in about 20 minutes.
Okay, we have an ongoing incident, so that's a perfect end. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Stevenson, I apologize. I do appreciate your opening statement. I appreciate your expressing remorse for your victims and for your actions. I also appreciate your accepting responsibility for your actions, not trying to deflect or minimize the impact that your actions had on our community as a whole and the people, the children involved in your offense. So I'm happy to hear you express that to us. My concern, you said in your statement that you would like us to look at you as more than just your convictions. And unfortunately, that's not what our charge is here today. We have to consider your suitability for early release in connection with your convictions. So I understand that the facility that you're currently in does not offer that accurate.
Correct.
And are you opposed to being transferred to another facility so that you can participate in the treatment?
My mental health score is still a 4, which doesn't allow me to be transferred to a different facility. What I did discuss with parole officer and a group called Connections was that there are other opportunities on the outside that would be mandatory for me to attend to achieve the same, I guess, class or group. And that's what I was hoping to be able to do.
So can you explain to us how long these crimes, over what time period this all transpired?
I would have to guess and say from maybe mid to end 2017 to right around 2020 to 2021.
And when your divorce was final, when?
February 14th, 2022.
And when did you begin having a tumultuous relationship with your ex-wife?
That had been going on quite a long time. And that caused me to obviously sink into a further state of depression.
So when you say quite a long time, tell me approximately what year?
Let's see, probably 2012, but it became worse. 2015, 2016.
And so in 2012, tell me some of the things that you did to cope with that relationship.
Once I found out about the infidelities, I kind of sunk further into myself. I applied myself more at work, and I was head coach of a varsity hockey program and a golf program. So I just try to almost withdraw myself from the marriage and put everything I had into my job and my coaching career as much of a distraction.
And diddling.
Right. Yeah. But were you participating in any kind of mental health treatment or spousal, marriage counseling, any of that stuff?
I was seeing a therapist on my own named Ellen Crowley at the Institute of Living
And when was
once
that?
a week. That was 2016, well, 2015 through probably 2018, if that late. I know that she retired somewhere in between there.
So before you acquired a therapist to talk some of your problems over, you said you used actually working more as a coping mechanism. So once you sought treatment, what did your therapist suggest as coping mechanisms?
She was trying to not only.
I find it pretty convenient that when he was arrested and found guilty, that's when the realization of his abuse became one of the factors of his crimes. It's like, come on, that's not how this happens.
Me as well. I don't remember any specific coping mechanisms that were presented to me. And like I said, she retired. I didn't know she was retiring. She told me at our last meeting. And then from then on, my primary caregiver became responsible for my medication. And then I didn't see anybody. With everything that happened, it was very difficult to actually open up to somebody about what I had gone through in my marriage and what my life was doing at the time. I was somebody that kind of buried those things down until recently. Well, 4 years ago when I came in, I finally unpacked my luggage to a social worker about everything that had happened.
So you had never disclosed to anyone about your own abuse?
Correct.
Not even your spouse, not your wife?
No.
And when did you make that disclosure?
I made that disclosure right about the same time that I was incarcerated, right around that same time. Prior to that, like a couple of months.
2021, okay.
Yes.
So I'm asking about all these dates and your treatment and all those things because I wanted to understand what you've done prior to committing these offenses and what you were going through and how you were trying to cope with everything before you got to this point. So tell me, you said you were viewing I wrote down the exact wording. You said that you were viewing heavily viewed pornography. And did you have some sort of desire to view, I guess, the children in these acts? I'm trying, obviously, it's legal. I mean, you're viewing it.
Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out how things transitioned from the adult.
I was downloading movies from a mainstream website, and there was one I had downloaded that had a minor. And there was a link in that. I clicked the link, and then I started viewing it as well as the mainstream. Until
So that was kind of the catalyst into the other stuff.
Yes.
And you wanted to see more, and then you started profiting from some of the photographs that you were taking.
Yes, it was all about the same time. And my goal, I don't know if I call it goal, but it just happened to be where I worked that I was surrounded by underage girls. I didn't necessarily seek out underage girls for taking pictures, but that just happened to be where I spent most of my time.
Well, I would argue that you did seek out, because you started strategically placing the students in assigned seats so that you could utilize, take these photographs, right?
I don't recall placing them in assigned seats just for that. Normally there was a seating chart, and then with group work and such, they would move around the classroom.
So you denied placing certain students in front of your classroom with that were wearing skirts and things like that, and taking images, taking photos of them without their knowledge?
Oh, no, I don't deny doing that. I did take covert pictures of my students, but I don't recall putting them in certain positions in the classroom so I would have access.
So can you provide any insight as to when the attraction started, I guess, amping up? I don't know if that's the right word, but like it started moving more towards minors instead of the adults. I was it more curiosity? Was it interest? I'm just curious to know.
I think that once I was on the internet and I discovered the dark side, I guess, I think that increased, and it was curiosity and interest, I believe, at the same time.
And so have you had an opportunity to speak with anyone about why that interest was there? I know we spoke about your own abuse, but that's still, there are hundreds of people that have been unfortunately, who were victims who did not take the route that you did. So do you have any insight as to why you committed the crime?
Again, I think it was more out of curiosity and interest and opportunity.
But you did know that it was wrong, right?
I did, and it really became quite clear, as I said, when I had that moment of clarity when I walked into our living room and saw images on screen, and I really didn't see the image.
You didn't have a moment of clarity that it was wrong. You had a moment of clarity that you just got caught and that you were going to prison. Let's not beat around the bush here.
Images of family and friends, all I could see were just photos of people and young people.
But you knew, but Mr. Stevens, you're an educated man, and I understand that you are under a lot of stress. You knew that what you were doing was wrong, but you continued to do it. And I'm just curious to know why. I understand that you didn't have your aha moment until you saw that photograph, but from 2017 up to that point, you were engaging in inappropriate viewing and acts. So I'm curious to know why, even when you knew it was wrong, you continued to do it.
I'm not sure if this is the reason why, but I think during that time period, I was able to compartmentalize what I was doing that was wrong and separate it from what I was doing that was great.
And this is the true understanding of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Doing something so great, and then the same token doing something so disgraceful. Crazy.
I was a very good teacher. I taught UConn level classes, and I coached successfully 2 varsity programs. So it was almost as if I could, I don't want to say split, but keep one in a box.
Compartmentalize is a perfect word. I say it's a perfect word to utilize, because I could see, I don't know who people are, so I don't have any kind of ties to them. Doesn't make it right, but I could understand. Okay. All right. I am done with my questions, sir. Thank you for speaking to me, Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Barry. Hey, Mr. Stevenson, I just wanted to know before I ask my questions for the record, that the Office of the State's Attorneys have submitted a letter in opposition to your release on parole. I just wanted to notify you of that we're in receipt of that, and we read it, that included it in our files. Okay.
Okay.
I read about some of the programs that you completed, and one of them was coping and life skills program. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So, when I read the description of the program and what happened, I thought maybe there were some things that you might have learned in that program that could help you. So I'd like to hear more about what you learned, and if you picked up on anything there that can help you deal with stress and some of the things that you've gone through, so we can avoid future problems.
The class itself really focused quite a bit on DBT, the dialectic behavioral theory, and I don't know if I pronounced the first word. I had the correct first
I
word.
think it was diabolical something. It said.
Yes. Okay. And that really taught me. Let's see. I wrote it down. How to understand emotions and differentiate between them in order to form a more positive outcome, and that to self-assess where you are with your emotions and try to find better ways to deal with them by solving them and then dealing with them appropriately.
That sounds similar to what you're describing has happened in some of this, right?
Yes.
Do you think that helped you, and that you can use those tools and recognize when you're having stress,
Yes.
level of emotions in the future?
I believe so. There was quite a bit that dealt with stress, not only of committing a crime, but prison life and other real world applications for when you're out, how to better deal with those in the real world, how to deal with your emotions.
And then you also completed the Voices program, right?
Yes.
And that had to do with victims. And I heard you talk a lot about the impact on the victims in your opening statement. I appreciate that. Because sometimes people, it's left out. But that's what's most important in this case, is the impact that's happened to these other people that didn't deserve this, right? And they trusted you.
Correct.
Have you considered the impact that your actions have had on the teaching profession, other teachers in Connecticut, and now people being suspicious or not trusting of them, although they had nothing to do with this? Have you thought about that?
Yes, actually, I would have brought it. I wrote a letter to the community, and I wrote one to the victims as well, and it really dealt with how I not only embarrassed but put a black eye on the entire profession of teaching, which is a noble profession, and I unfortunately damaged that reputation, not only of the education in my community, but across Connecticut and further on in society. That what I did was horrible and could be seen by other people in the public as being something that is goes through all the school systems, but it doesn't. But it further supports the idea that teachers can't do this type of thing. And that was just wrong on my part to have been the one that did that, especially when I consider that I had a good reputation and I was a good teacher. I think the shock of me being dragged into the light caused irreparable damage. And I know that it's still a topic in my community, in a sense that the superintendent and the Board of Education were called to task for not reporting other things that other teachers had done. And they used me as an example, although I had no marks against me on any of my reviews. All my reviews were positive, but I don't know if it was DCF, but I think it was, that went after our town. And my name is all over the report. My ex-spouse, who I have a great relationship with, is on the Board of Education now. And she let me know just how harsh that report was for me and the community itself.
Yeah, there are certain professions, right? Clergy, policemen, firemen, teachers, nurses, where we expect those people, and we have trust in them to be alone with our children, and then when that trust is broken, it has all of these ripple effects that you're talking about.
Yes.
Beyond the tremendous impact on the victims themselves, all these other things that now take place to the whole education system, like you said. So I just want to make sure you understand the impact. It's not as simple as you might think of it. It's complicated and very complex and diverse and affects many, many people.
Yes. You had mentioned the Voices program. I would have to say that was probably the most valuable program I took here, because not only did it talk about crime and its impact, we did so much work with victims. And I remember one of the videos that was going through parent victims and all different types of crimes. And then came one about not what I did, child. And just the impact, just hearing those types of things obviously hit me to the core. But I thought that was very valuable.
But did it hit you to the core? Because the scary part about all this is he knows exactly what he's supposed to say. Because he was a teacher, especially the part where he's talking about the DBT. He knows exactly what diabolical means. And that's the exact reason he tried to substitute it for a different, less volatile word. And that just shows he's not taking full accountability. And it really just goes to show you can't teach an old dog new tricks. He was sick back then, and he is still sick now. And that's just the God's honest truth.
Not only, I had already changed my mindset and knew about victims, but that class really hammered home the idea that it's not just the victim, but how far out it goes into society with the ripple effect.
Yeah. I'm glad you were able to gain that information from that program. It sounds like you have an understanding of that. How do you think you've changed the most since you've been incarcerated these last almost 4 years?
I learned humility, obviously. I learned to appreciate the small things and to show gratitude. I've learned not to go through life on autopilot and to take my time, and that really to just appreciate a lot of different things and how I should have before, and I certainly will do after, is use my support system. Or now they're all fully aware of what happened to me, and that I didn't realize, I think at the time, that I could have been open with them. And my social worker and I have really talked quite a bit about making sure that I bring people into the loop about what's going on in my life and be transparent. And that's something that but I was able to think about over the last 4 years and maintain contact with them. And I know that when I learned in here, talking to them, that they'll be calling me to task and making sure that I'm doing what I need to do. Again, I also learned how to differentiate emotions to form a better outcome. I learned in occupation and culinary arts, and that there are many, many jobs that are available to felons in culinary arts, but also all the, I'm going to call it spiderweb of other occupations that are related to those fields. I thought that program was valuable. I also learned in here to, like I said, live day by day, and to put the past behind me and to try to just look forward one day at a time. I learned how the crimes impacted my victims, but I also learned that I could change.
All right. My last question just has to do with your plans for release. I read through what you had there in our documents that you told the patrol officer. Is it still your plan to not move back to the same community where you were living?
I would like to, only because that's where my support network is, and I have a friend who owns 2 4-unit apartment buildings who would not really charge me rent. He's part of my support network. I've known him since I was 2. And then
that's back at the same town where you were at?
In Vernon. It's close to where my daughter and my spouse is, and the rest of my support network. Obviously, I would shop and do other activities out of town, and I plan to work quite a bit so that I will just be in and out. So I wouldn't try to establish myself in the same community. I would just happen to be living there.
So on our documents, I saw something about a halfway house. Is that still your plan right now?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Halfway house. Is the halfway house still part of your plan?
If possible. The parole officer mentioned something about the January center.
Yeah. So, well, your specific situation, there may be other things, that you have to do. Figure it out. Yeah. So there may be special halfway houses. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. But
the only fear of a halfway house I've had is that I've been assaulted here more than once because of my charges. And that I know that the rest of the people in the halfway house are there from prisons, not just here, from all the other prisons. And then I would just worry about my safety.
Understood. Okay, Mr. Stevenson, those are all the questions I have. I'm going to check with my colleague, panel member Sarkov, and see if he has any questions for you. Okay, Chair, I don't. Okay, he has no questions. All right, sir, so we're done with the questions.
Okay.
We're going to deliberate now. On the record, the question period is over. You can listen to us talking, but please don't interrupt at this time. And when we're done, we'll give you our answer.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, you're welcome. Panel member Barry.
Thank you, Sir Chair. So Mr. Stevenson sounds good here today. I appreciated his opening comments. I also appreciate our discussion. It sounds like he really has taken this time to reflect on his actions and try to work on ways that he can avoid ever doing this again. It sounds like he'll play a tremendous role in his wanting to rehabilitate himself, be rehabilitated, should I say. And it sounds like he's also been able to make a number of connections with his own abuse. And I guess he's working through some of his childhood trauma and some of the things in his life. One of the things that I'm questioning is, he spoke about at length his tumultuous relationship with his ex-wife, but now she's a support. And I'm just curious to know how that all figured itself out, because and also whether or not his daughter has received any backlash because of his offenses, like how it's going through this. All those things are going to be difficult for him to navigate when he's back into the community. And I really believe that treatment for his actual offense will help him gain some of the tools that he needs to go out to return to the community and face those kinds of adversities. So today, he sounds great. He does great out low. He has not received any disciplinary infractions. He's taken some of the programs. He's working. And I understand his concerns for his safety, but I would not feel comfortable releasing him at this time because I don't think he's taking the appropriate programming to address why he's in the facility. So that's where I am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jerry. So yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you said. He does sound pretty good. He was able to talk to us about the programs that he's taken and articulate what he's learned and how it'll help him. I see that he has no criminal history beyond this. And like you said, he's had no disciplinary reports. But unfortunately, it's not offered in this facility. But I do think that he would benefit from participating. So for me today, I would be in support of this. I think that him leaving the facility and going would be helpful and would provide him with some extra tools so that he doesn't reoffend again, So for me, I would be in support of his discretionary parole today so that he can get the treatment that he needs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree that Mr. Stevenson presented well today. He accepted responsibility. It's been pretty transparent. I'm not going to be supportive of this discretionary parole today. simply because of the nature and circumstances of the offense, given his role in the community for many years as an educator. Don't see a way to get there today. But that's where I am.
Okay, so you have the nature and circumstances. Anything else?
I would add the inadequate program participation, and the state's attorney did object to is being released from it. So those would be additional reasons. I mean, honestly, the nature and circumstances never going to change. You know, I agree with this stuff because, you know, given the role that he was in and the impact that this is going to have for years to come on our community, is very impactful. We can't use an entry and impact because there's no victims here presenting themselves, but it's still going to be an impact. So I honestly didn't even have to come back for another hearing. I know he's not done until 29.
Okay.
That's where I am.
Okay. Is there anything else to add? Councilmember Sarkoff, I have inadequate institutional program participation. It sounds like in nature and circumstances from you guys.
And the state's attorney's objection.
Is that a reason?
Other reason? Other here. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion. In regard to Christian Stevenson, inmate number 438136, I'm going to make a motion to deny discretionary parole today based on the nature and circumstances of the current offense, inadequate institutional program participation, and the state's attorney's objection to his release. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, so the motion carries by unanimous decision. Mr. Stevenson, did you hear all of that?
Yes.
We're not able to get to a place that we were comfortable as a board granting your discretionary parole.
But
Okay, so it's a denial? Is that what you're saying?
yes, it's a denial. But as I always say, stay blessed and stay free, so you don't got to be around weirdos like this.
Programs and keep working on yourself. And maybe there'll be an opportunity down the road for you to get into a halfway house through DOC. I don't know. You can talk to your counselor about that.